Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Crabb and my presentation is on gaming, the good, bad, and ugly of small screens, gaming and young children under the age of 10. The use of small screens by children under the age of 10 has exponentially increased over the last few years and has caused some concern among people. Gaming is a specific concern. Children are spending more time playing their favorite games, but the effects are debated. It is vital for marketers to understand the ethical implications of children's increased screen time and how video games affect children. Screen time among children has increased significantly, with children ages 8 to 12 using the internet for over 4 hours a day for entertainment purposes. The data also suggests that toddlers use digital devices for more than an hour a day. These numbers go way beyond the screen time recommended by the World Health Organization. They recommend that children under the age of 2 have zero screen time, children between the ages of 2 to 4 less than 1 hour, and children that are older to have less than 2 hours. These guidelines have not stopped the expanding problem of too much screen time. There are so many variables to look at before determining the positive and negative consequences of small screens on children. Games for children can be beneficial for educational purposes. Gaming can improve cognitive skills and problem-solving skills. According to the National Institute of Health, a study of nearly 2,000 children found that those who reported playing video games for 3 hours per day or more performed better on cognitive skills tests involving impulse control and working memory when compared to children who never played video games. Scientists are unsure about the specific underlying causes that contribute to these improvements. They understand that children who play video games for 3 or more hours per day have better cognitive development than children who do not. 3 hours is higher than the recommended screen time, though, but the cognitive improvements were significant. Researchers suggest that the visual processing demanded by video games may cause increased impulse control, working memory, and problem-solving skills. The benefit for cognitive development is a great talking point for the use of small screens by children. There are also some negative consequences correlated with gaming in children, including ADHD. But, according to the National Institute of Health, though children who reported playing video games for 3 or more hours per day scored higher on measures of attention problems, depression symptoms, and attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder compared to children who played no video games, the researchers found that these mental health and behavioral scores did not reach clinical significance in either group, meaning they did not meet the thresholds for risk of problem behaviors or clinical symptoms. Kids are more likely to experience attention problems or depressive episodes if they spend more than 3 hours a day playing video games. Although this information is concerning, none of the symptoms in the case study led to a clinical issue or behavioral issues. Even though it may not be a major concern, children still need to spend time away from games to help their attention span and mood. So it is important to regulate their screen time and make sure that they are getting out of the house as well. According to CNN, the World Health Organization classified gaming disorder as a new mental health condition in 2018. There are 3 symptoms that are associated with gaming disorder. One of them is when gaming takes precedence over other activities to the extent that other activities are less of a priority to the individual. The second condition is having impaired control over prolonged gaming. The third is when the condition leads to impairment and distress in personal, family, social, educational, or occupational functioning. Gaming disorder may impact your sleep, diet, and physical activity as well. The condition can be compared to gambling disorder. CNN also interviewed a licensed psychologist named Anthony Bean, who argues that the World Health Organization's classification is misleading and premature. Being said, I am a clinician and a researcher, so I see people who play video games and believe themselves to be in the lines of addicted. In his experience, they're using gaming more as a coping mechanism for either anxiety or depression. It is also challenging to understand how gaming affects children specifically. A lot of research pertains to people 10 years and older, with a lot of it focusing on teens and adults. Children also have fewer responsibilities compared to older individuals, and gaming might not affect their ability to complete everyday tasks, since they have at least one primary caregiver. Children's brains are just developing, and the way video games impact them will be different from how they affect adults. While gaming might be disruptive to an adult's everyday life, a child may just view it as their own personal playtime. Therefore, gaming disorder is less likely to affect children. So what does this mean for marketers? Marketing to children is a sensitive subject. You must be careful not to break FTC rules or ethics in the process. The FTC prohibits deceptive acts, recognizes the limited ability of children, and challenges any practices that would cause injury that could be avoided. They also have rules concerning digital advertising to children and protecting children's online privacy. It is not difficult to follow FTC guidelines if you conduct yourself in an ethical manner. The only question is if gaming poses a potential threat to children's health, is it unethical to market it to them? It depends on how you perceive the possible benefits and consequences of gaming. Since there are no concrete evidence linking screen time and gaming to significant problems in children, it should be ethical to market to them, but marketers still need to be cautious. Marketing violent games to children would have dire consequences. Parental concerns around violent games might very well lead to an ethical issue. Marketers should consider the types of games they market before potentially advertising them to children. Ultimately, it is up to parents to decide what is best for their children. It is also up to marketers to conduct themselves ethically when making marketing to kids. If both parties are careful with what children consume, the potential negative side effects could be relegated. Parents should carefully consider what their children have access to and how it affects them. If a child is spending too much time on their devices, parents should seek to remedy the situation. If kids are not monitored, they can easily run into content that is inappropriate for their consumption. Parents should monitor their kids' screen time activity, and marketers should also ensure that content is appropriate for children when they choose to market it towards them. In conclusion, there is not enough concrete evidence to determine the full benefits and consequences of gaming with the increased screen time for young children. There is also considerable evidence that kids who play video games for more than 3 hours a day are better off cognitively, but the World Health Organization does not recommend more than 3 hours a day. Their current recommendation remains much lower than what was shown to create any of these cognitive improvements. The cognitive improvements are also not clearly correlated with any aspects of games. The negative consequences are also not noticeably clear. Studies show that gaming can lead to attention issues, anxiety symptoms, and signs of depression, but there is also evidence to suggest that these symptoms lead to an increase in video game use. You cannot determine whether video games are the causation for any mental health consequences. There are also additional concerns involving physical health and the addictive nature of games, but they are not necessarily occurring within children. There are not enough studies to determine that kids are at a risk for any of these issues, but it is a concern. Children's screen time usage should be monitored by parents, and marketers should be conscientious about how they market to children.